I know I'm late, y'all, so bear with me. But we here. We made it. How everybody doing tonight? How everybody doing? I'll wait for some people to come in. I got it's been a crazy days for me, so um but I'm excited. I'm excited to talk through tonight's topic and to get things going. We definitely had several of you guys vote for this topic, so I'm excited to talk through it. Make sure to like the live if you haven't already. Make sure to let me know where you're watching from in the comments. I love to hear that. And I feel like that didn't really do much. Trying to clean my glasses. Um, Happy Cinco de Mayo to anybody that celebrates. I didn't really, like I said, it's been busy. I just even thought about it. So I was like, oh, today's the 5th. But tonight we're talking about feeling stuck. So if you're feeling, stuck spiritually, emotionally, just in general, just in life, this live is for you. If you don't find yourself there, but you have recalled a time where you have felt that way, and you want to get some tips for if it happens again, feel free to stick around. Let me plug this in because I feel like my laptop's about to
Finally,
die.
girl, I was thirsty.
Okay, let me turn this down. I hope that you guys can still hear me because I know when for some reason hold on, let me check to see if you guys can still hear me actually. Because I just had for some reason my phone pops up as a microphone to my laptop and then it cancels out my sound. So I hope I don't have to restart the live. I hope you guys can hear me right now. Let me just double check really quick. Maybe I have to do it over here. If anybody's watching, please let me know if you can still hear me. Otherwise, I'm gonna double check it here. Let's see. Hopefully. Let's see. Bear with me. Oh yeah. Yes, you can. Okay. Cool. Cool. Hey, it's been a day, y'all. It really has. It really has. Okay. So, we can go ahead and jump in now. Hello, M. Walters. Welcome in. Today I was just about to start actually. Today we're talking about feeling stuck. What that looks like, what that sounds like. Hello, Raheel. Welcome in. What that looks like, what that sounds like, and what to do about it. I think we all are kind of like in this. Um, I feel like, actually, hold on. Let me get my block game going here. Just a second. Block game is heavy. Hold on. I gotta get my block game again. Hold on. All right. Hi, Raheel. Welcome in. I'm doing all right. Okay, here we go. Perfect. Definitely let me know where you guys are watching from. Thank you to all who I did shout you out, Raheel. Welcome in. So when it comes to where was I at? What was I talking about? The vote. Thank you to everybody that voted. Hey, Jesse. Thank you to everybody that voted on the topic for feeling stuck. I know that we do those live polls every Saturday to kind of vote on what we want to talk about. And weekly, you guys actually really do pop in and vote. So I appreciate that. This week we talked about one of the areas that we were talking about was feeling stuck, and that was highly voted on. So I'm excited to kind of talk through it. I have three main points to talk through just on how to identify, if you are stuck. I feel like we all kind of know, but just to kind of give you some insight as to like what that really is and what you can do about it. And then from there, instead of affirmations this week, I have journaling questions that you can take away, that you can use to kind of discover or walk through why you're feeling stuck, where it's coming from, and give yourself an action plan to move forward. So I want to dive into those 3 points first, and then I'll give you those journaling questions. But feel free to stop me at any time. You guys have any questions, y'all want to comment on the topic, and we can kind of go from there. Let me put my music back on. I turned it off trying to make sure that y'all could hear me, but let me make sure to put that back on. Okay, so feeling stuck. Now, when I'm thinking about, or when I'm talking about feeling stuck, I'm talking about emotionally, spiritually. That's primarily where we are when we're talking about the being stuck, right? So whenever you feel stuck, just know that that's a freeze response. Okay, so I know that you probably hear a lot about fight or flight or freeze, right? Um, Feeling stuck is pretty much a freeze response to whatever's happening around you, whether it be around you environmentally or internally within your mind or within your heart, right? So one thing you want to understand is that it is a response of the nervous system when you feel like you're stuck or you feel like that's a constant or consistent way of being for you currently, right? So it's definitely a freeze response. It is a matter of disconnection or disassociation where you may not even feel anything. So like you may say that you're stuck, but you may not have any emotions or can't identify any emotions when it comes to how you're feeling. And so you go on this journey of survival mode or just kind of trying to get through the day. And that's how you go through the day every day. You're just like, you wake up, okay, I just want to get through the day. And that's how you live life. And sometimes that can give you a feeling of feeling or being stuck, okay? So whenever you find yourself in that state of mind or that state of being, um, it is the first thing you want to do is ask yourself some questions. That's the time for you to actually pause and start asking some questions. Start getting a good understanding of why. Why are you in this state? So just to kind of go through some of my notes here, I'm gonna move this over. Many times we find ourselves in the state of being stuck or feeling stuck is because typically it's due to our current circumstances, right? So whether it be our environment, where we're at in our careers, where we're at in life, we feel like we should be, and I say should in quotation marks, we feel like we should be in a certain state of mind or even just a certain career path, or we should be further than where we are. Um, so many times we may find ourselves stuck when we have certain levels of low self-esteem, feelings of imposter syndrome, some feelings of shame or of our past or our past traumas, lack of resources, that's a big one, external pressure, unclear direction, or disconnection from our purpose, or just extreme feelings of exhaustion, right? So we're doing all of the things that we think that we're supposed to be doing, but it's not necessarily getting us anywhere. We feel like we're in like a hamster wheel when we're trying to move and progress through life. So that creates a level of exhaustion. So when you get into that state of mind, it creates that feeling of I'm stuck or I'm not moving or I'm not going anywhere. We may find ourselves in a state of a plateau where you know, we got up to a certain point in life, whatever that looks like, or whatever that desire we had to be. We got to a certain point, and then everything just stopped. It just kind of flatlined, and nothing happened thereafter. Um, so that may be why you are finding yourself there. But you really want to make sure that you ask yourself that question, right? You really want to make sure that you understand personally. Yeah, I can give you ideas of what it would look like or why you could possibly be feeling stuck, but only you would know that, right? And it will be up to you to really sit and pause and explore that. I know we talked about intentional pauses, like I want to say 2 or 3 weeks ago. This is a good time if you find yourself in a state of feeling stuck to have an intentional pause and to stop and really think about what's happening, why you're feeling this way. You also want to explore your emotions surrounding you being stuck, because, and if there are any, like you may have disassociated or disconnected so much to the point where you're like, I don't even know what I feel. I don't have language for it. I don't even know how to define what I feel. But you do want to take the time to explore your emotions. Is it anger? Is it disappointment? Is it sadness? Is it grief? Is it hopelessness? Is it depression? Like really thinking about what the emotions are, because of the fact that you may find yourself feeling stuck because of the fact that you have not dealt with the emotions surrounding whatever the thing is, right? So if you are feeling stuck about your job, or you're feeling stuck, well, about your career, and the reason is maybe because you're disappointed of the job that you have or the way that you progressed, in your career, or maybe you feel stuck because you don't have the education you need to go through the career, to go, to the career, or go through the career that you want to go into. There's so many different reasons as to where it could be coming from. So like taking the time to understand the emotions surrounding your stuckness, and that can help you pinpoint the why. Okay. So a lot of times, if you are feeling stuck, it could be because of anger. And usually, anger is a secondary emotion. So usually, there's something that's under the anger. But a lot of times, we feel stuck because we're stuck in anger, or we're stuck in fear, or we're stuck in anxiety, or we're stuck in, you know, these different emotions. Grief is a huge one. A lot of times we find ourselves stuck because we're experiencing grief to a certain extent. And grief doesn't necessarily have to be related to a person. So it's not like somebody passed away. It could be a relationship ended, or you were laid off, or it could be a friendship that ended. So there, a lot of times we think of grief, we always think of it, oh, well, someone passed away. Well, no, it's not necessarily that. It could be a relationship passed away. It could be a job passed away. It could have been so many different things. And grief is really just an adaptation to a new way of life or a new way of being. So anytime that you are having to adapt or adjust to a new environment, or adjust into a new state of being, or into you're transitioning into something new, there's an element of grief that's there that typically doesn't get handled, or doesn't get addressed. So explore your emotions. A lot of the times, once you start exploring your emotions and feeling stuck, you'll start to pinpoint where that feeling is coming from. It could be just one thing as to why you're feeling stuck. It could be multiple things. It could be everything. Some people just have like feel like nothing is going well for them. And because of that, they feel a sense of hopelessness or sadness or depression. And they get stuck in that cycle of being or emotions. So keep that in mind when thinking through and exploring your emotions. The other aspect of pausing and reflecting is explore what's changing or what has changed in your life. Okay. Oftentimes, we feel stuck due to levels of uncertainty, change, or even growth. So understanding that anytime that there's a certain level, and I kind of talked about this as far as transitioning, but if there's a certain level of uncertainty or change that's happened or happening, um, or is about to happen, something that you're anticipating happening, anytime that you find yourself in that state, it can cause that stuckness or that feeling of stuckness. Even growth, even getting better or evolving can cause some feelings of being stuck, right? And the only reason why I say that is because sometimes we've outgrown our environments or outgrown our relationships, and because we haven't taken that a step to move into the next stage of life or to transition out of those environments or transition out of those relationships, we then begin to feel stuck because of the fact that we're not making any action on the growth that we made. And sometimes growth and healing, even at times, can mask itself as sadness or depression. So, and even though it's not technically depression, it just kind of feels like that because of the that growth and that change that's happening. And sometimes change in itself, regardless of actually what type of change it is, if it's good change or bad change or whatever, um, it can create that disassociation or that disconnectedness, which then therefore turns into I feel stuck or I am stuck. Um, so keep that in mind and thinking about and reflecting on feeling stuck. Really try to dig in to understand why. And like I said, it's more so of you exploring your emotions, exploring what changes are happening, and finding ways to pinpoint why. Okay, so that's point number one: pause and reflect. Point number two is revisit your why, right? Revisit and reflect back onto what truly matters to you. Revisit and go back to and reconnect with your purpose and reignite your motivation that you are looking for with what you're looking for internally, right? So take the time to circle back to your core values, your core beliefs, your purpose, your desires, your goals, your aspirations. Circle back to your why. Why do you get up in the morning? Why do you get up and keep going? Who are you fighting for? Are you just fighting for yourself? Are you fighting for your family? Are you fight like what like where are your motivations? Because a lot of times we get stuck because we lose sight of that. We lose sight of what our values are, what our goals are, what we want out of life, what our desires are. And sometimes we don't even take the time to really explore what our values are. Sometimes we just live life just to live life, but we don't even know, well, what do I value? What is important to me? We know just in passing, just because if something comes up, but we've never actually sat down and say, I value these things in life. I value my family. I value my health. I value my spirituality. I value all of these. There's so many different things that you could value, but really taking the time to even writing and reflect on those things and, say to yourself, okay, I value these areas. And I think I might have a video on, I'm pretty sure I do. I have a video on exploring core values. It most likely will be titled Core Values in some way. But if this is something that you've never explored or really never really took the time to think about, please go back and watch that video because it will give you some insight as to really journaling what you care about and what's most important to you and pinpointing at least 5 core values that you are going to live off of, right? And anytime that you find yourself in a state of stuckness or being stuck or a state of freeze, that's what you circle back to, right? So circling back to your values, your core beliefs, your purpose, your desires, and your aspirations. Why do you do what you do? Why do you get up in the morning? What keeps you going? Finding ways to understand what nourishes your soul, What restores you? What inspires you? What motivates you? Taking the time to really think about those things, journal those things, because if you ever find yourself back in this state of stuckness, this is what you can come back to. That's why I love journaling, because journaling will help you in those spaces or in those times where you don't know what to do, or you feel this way, you feel stuck, right? And if you journal it out, it's something you can always come back to, down the line, right? So that's why I love like actually sitting and writing this stuff out, because it makes sense to kind of have that to come back to it. Um, so thinking about what nourishes your soul. Is it prayer? Is it motivation? Is it meditation? Is it creativity? What inspires you? What are some of the things that you like to do? What are some of the things you would like to do? What are, there's so many different, what books do you like to read? What types of books? Like there's so many different things that you can do. What activities, what hobbies? There's so many things that you can do, but thinking through what nourishes your soul and really writing that out and journaling that out is helpful. So that was point number 2. Revisit your why, reflect on what truly matters to you. And then point number 3, invest in restoration. Take restoration seriously, okay? I know that we a lot of times talk about self-care and all that stuff, right? And self-care is a big part of restoration, but self-care isn't always pampering, right? It's self-care is what you need in that moment. So if what you need in that moment to restore you, to make you better, to bring you back to neutral, right? At least to bring you back to shock you out of that freeze response, whatever that looks like. It could just be rest. It could be sleep. Okay. A lot of times we find ourselves feeling stuck because we're not taking care of ourselves, but not taking care of ourselves, not saying like, oh, we're not doing our self-care regimen or whatever. More so not taking care of your health, right? We're not hydrating. We're not resting properly. We're not exercising. We're not, doing the things that we need to do to keep our bodies in a healthy state. And because we're not doing those things, that therefore affects us emotionally. It affects our mental state, and it affects our mental way of being. So thinking about what restores you in that moment is important. Are you taking your multivitamins? Have you been to the doctor? Have you had your blood work checked? Have you really thinking about your health and finding where you're neglecting yourself there? Start with your body, because your body is what houses your brain. It's what houses your soul, what houses your mind. If you're not taking care of your body, then your brain, your mind, your soul, that's all going to be out of whack anyway. So start with your body. And when I say start with your body, give your body rest, okay? Give your body rest, nourish your body. Typically, if I feel like I feel stuck, or I feel like I am not progressing or not growing, or just don't feel emotionally well, I always start with my body. I pull back on what I've been eating. I may even fast. I may do like a water fast, or do like a veggie fast, or a meat fast. Like I'll start working on my body first, so that way I can actually think clearly. Because if I'm continuously, a lot of times I feel that way, or get my brain into that state of being when I'm eating a lot of sugar, when I'm eating just stuff that I shouldn't be eating, a lot of fried food, a lot of starch. Like when I'm eating all of that stuff, that's typically the first go-to for me to get a clear mind, is to start removing that stuff out. So but that's what restores me. That doesn't have to necessarily mean that's what you have to do, but that's what restores me. So thinking about how you can restore your body, typically that's going to be rest, right? Whether that's physical sleep, whether that's pulling back on some of your obligations for a period of time, getting a break in whatever way possible that you can. That could be relaxing movement. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like you're physically still, even though stillness is a big part of it. It doesn't have necessarily have to mean you're physically still, because a relaxing movement can also be restorative. So if you want to go the vacation route, if you want to take some time away, you can. If you don't have the cash, you can still take some time off and just have a staycation and chill out a bit. But finding a way to rest, so that way you're able to wrap your head around what's happening and really start to go back to the reflection that I was talking about earlier. Finding time to really sit and reflect on those things. Another part of when it comes to restoration is pacing yourself. If you have to go slow, go slow. Okay. If you have to rest several days before you can get to the rest of the action plans and the goals and all that stuff, then do that. Right. So go at your own pace and give yourself what you need in that moment. Um, and then, like I was saying before, action planning, goal setting, figuring out where, based off of what you find as the reason for your stuckness, finding ways to have an action plan to bring yourself out of it. Accountability check-ins. What do you need to hold yourself accountable for when it comes to not just your restoration, but also in determining where your stuckness is, or where you're feeling stuck. Like I said before, it could be just one thing, it could be everything, it could be multiple things. It just kind of depends on your situation. But making sure to start with figuring out an action plan for your next steps. A lot of times, what's the best way to say this? A lot of times, the we find ourselves stuck because of fear, and we're holding ourselves back. We may say we feel stuck, right? We may say that we're in this predicament just because of our the life that we've been dealt, right? As far as like us getting getting dealt a deck of cards, and this is the cards that I've gotten, right? Which to some extent can definitely be true, but also exploring where you can hold yourself accountable. And the one thing that I feel like when it comes to feeling stuck, the accountability pieces comes from fear, right? What am I fearful of? Why am I holding myself back? Because a lot of times we're stuck because we put ourselves there, not necessarily because of what's happening around us. Both can be true, but really taking the time to be accountable and explore where we can hold ourselves accountable in those different areas is important. So action planning, but also an accountability check-in. Seeking support, right? Really finding ways to find support within your current support system. You may not have a huge support system. So thinking about that, is that a part of your stuckness? The fact that you don't have a lot of resources, resulting to therapy, finding ways to do like therapy or coaching to kind of talk through, especially if you're having a tough time identifying why, right? And then also, like, I know that we talk about all of these different resources and all of the different tips that I can provide you. But at the end of the day, seeking God, He got all the answers, y'all. Like, He got all the answers, and I know we talk through all of our ideas and what we could do and what things could be and what things aren't and what they couldn't be. But really seeking God through prayer is really where I've found my most success. Let's say that, in understanding purpose, understanding values, understanding our next steps or my next steps. That's where I find my answers. I know everybody may not believe in God. That's fine. But for me personally, that's where I have been able to find most of my answers. All of my answers come from him, right? So definitely find ways to seek support, whether it be, like I said, through God, through therapy, through your own personal network, through your friends, through your family, those that you can trust, and this type of to have these types of conversations with. But yeah, that's important because a lot of times we feel stuck because we feel alone and we are experiencing loneliness or hopelessness, and digging into or leaning onto your community, and the community that you have around you is super important, right? And like I said, some of us may not have that much support, right? A lot of us may not have the friends or the family that we can lean on to have to find that support. But that's why I do that. What I do, you can always find support through watching videos on the topics that you're looking for, doing research on the topics that you're having a hard time with. I know that a lot of times we may blame the fact that we don't have a support system, which definitely could be a huge reason as to why we may feel stuck, and maybe a huge part of it. But there are ways around that. You can pull. We may say, "Oh, I need a mentor," but you can definitely find people that are experienced in the space of what you're looking for, through videos and through social media and things of that matter. So you always have that. And like I said before, you always can go to God, seek God. You can always seek him for answers too. So there may be lack of resources, there may be lack of support, but there's always ways around it. I don't know how many things that I have been able to pull from books that I've read, from videos that I've watched of people that are experienced in the space that I'm trying to learn and understand. So even though we may not have physical support around us, there is still ways to get the support that we need. We just have to be accountable and take action in finding that support. Sometimes it just takes a little bit more work than others. Okay. So that would be the last as far as like investing in restoration. Um, Oh, lastly, when it comes to one more thing, when it comes to investing in restoration, is nourishing the soul. I kind of talked about it with prayer, meditation, and creativity and inspiration, finding new things, learning new things. Those are all really critical ways to help restore the soul. But again, restoration is based off of your needs, right? So I can give you all the tips I can, but at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, what is it that I need? What do I need? And how can I ensure that I receive that? Another thing too is just making sure that you take inventory of what is draining you, right? Like there are a lot of times where we have a hard time nourishing or restoring ourselves because as soon as we restore ourselves just a little bit, we end up getting drained by something else, by something or someone else. So really take inventory of what's draining you, what's taking from you emotionally, physically, spiritually. Because if there's any adjustments that you can make in what's draining you or taking away from you, that'll allow you to get to a state of being where you're able to restore yourself and keep that restoration. A lot of times we're pouring from empty cups. We got just a little bit of juice at the bottom, and then we try to restore ourselves and we just add a little bit more juice, but then somebody comes along and drinks the rest of that too. So now you're back at the bottom of the cup. So just ensuring that you're able to understand what is taking your energy, what's draining you, especially if you find your feelings, when we're talking about exploring your feelings, especially if one of the feelings that you're feeling is exhaustion, especially if you're feeling exhaustion in a time where you're not really doing a lot, right? Like, so you may be doing like your core things of what you do to day, but there's nothing really extra outside of that. But you just are exhausted every day in and day out. It's most likely something is draining you, and it's just a matter of exploring the why, okay, or where that's coming from. All right, so that was point number 3, y'all. So that was when feeling stuck, pause and reflect, revisit your why, which is number 2, and then invest in restoration is number 3. So I have 6 journaling questions that you can take away today. I felt like journaling questions were probably a better idea than affirmations, just based off of the topic. So I hope these are helpful. Feel free to take these down. The ones that are, you can write all of them down, or whatever ones that stick out to you that you feel that are going to be helpful for you in your journey and where you are. If you are only writing down some of those, that's perfectly okay too. So I'm gonna walk through these. Okay, number 1, what does being stuck look like and feel like to me? And what parts of my life feel the most stuck? What does being stuck look and feel like to me? And what parts of my life feel the most stuck? One last time. What does being stuck feel like? What does being stuck look and feel like to me? And what parts of my life feel the most stuck? So this is identifying, right? We talked about earlier when we do our initial pause to identify what being stuck looks like and why, right? So this is where we're starting here. What does being stuck look like and feel like to me, and what parts of my life feel the most stuck? Hi, Maria, welcome in. That was number 1. Number 2, what areas of my life conflict with my values or my vision for who I want to become, right? What areas of my life conflict with my values or my vision for what I want to become? One last time. What areas of my life conflict with my values or my vision for who I want to become? A lot of times we feel stuck because we have an internal conflict. Whether the internal conflict is just with our emotions and feelings, or if it's like our actions versus our values, a lot of times we feel stuck because the things that we have to do don't line up with our values or our goals or our desires, and because we feel like like we're wasting time, or we feel like we're not adequately using our the things that we do well, our strengths, and we're leaning more so on thinking through our weaknesses versus our strengths. There's so many different things that could be coming up, but taking the time to understand any internal conflicts is important, because that's a lot of times the area where we feel the most stuck, because we have this internal battle that's happening. And the more that internal battle happens, especially when it comes to different emotions in our environments and things of that matter, that therefore gets us into the feeling of freezing, or it has us freeze. I know we talked about earlier the fight, flight, or freeze, or fawn is the 4th one. But when we find ourselves in this disassociation of us just being or feeling stuck, a lot of times it's because there's an internal conflict happening. Again, internal conflict could be just emotions. It could be our actions and how we feel. It could be our values and our actions. There's so many different things that could be happening when it comes to an internal conflict. So this question asks, what areas of my life conflict with my values or my vision for who I want to become? Writing what those internal conflicts are can be the beginning of understanding why you feel stuck. So keep that in mind. I think that's a good one if you are currently stuck, like if you currently feel this way. That's a good one to explore because a lot of times it's going to be surrounding an internal conflict. Number three, what fears come up for me when thinking about my next steps in life? What fears come up for me when thinking about my next steps in life? What fears come up for me when thinking about my next steps in life? A lot of times we feel stuck because of fear. And that's the easiest way to put it, right? We have fear, we have anxieties of what is to come or what's happening or what the uncertainties of life. And because of that, we allow the fear to keep us stuck in a certain way of being, okay? And because of that, we have this consistent feeling of I'm not progressing, and we rather stay there than move past the fear. Okay? Because feeling stuck, even though you may feel stuck, that is comfortable, right? Sometimes it's more comfortable to be stuck or to be in this common known environment than to step into the world of uncertainty, or in the world of uncomfortability. So we stay in that state of being because of the fact that even though it's not ideal, it's more comfortable than moving forward, right? So understanding your fears that are coming up for you and how you feel about those fears can also help pinpoint why you're feeling stuck. And the fear could be as simple as, if I move into this career, what if it doesn't work? Right? So you stay stuck at a job that you don't like because it's here, it's certain, you know that the money is going to be there and you may not like it, but you at least stay there because you know that it is certain for the most part. You could lose your job tomorrow, who knows? But it's the most certain piece in your life, right? But you still feel stuck. You're like, I have to be here because I need to make money. I need to do this. I need to do that. But this isn't what I want to do. So that's the internal conflict, right? That we talked about. You have the internal conflict of I'm doing something, but I feel a different way. And so when you find yourself in that space, even with relationships, right? You stay in a relationship with someone knowing you don't like the way that things are going, but because you're comfortable with that person, you stay instead of detaching and moving on, knowing that that person isn't good for you, knowing that the relationship is damaging, knowing that the relationship is not where you want to be. But you stay because it's comfortable and it's familiar. And being familiar doesn't mean that's where you should be, right? Same with the job. If you stay in a job just because you know that you need this job, but you want to move into a different career, but you're afraid to take that leap, a lot of times we just stay because it's familiar and you know what to expect, you know what you're doing, you know where to go, what to do day in and day out. And anything that has to do with change or some form of adjustment or some form of uncertainty or uncomfortability, then we just stay there. And because we have the conflict of, I don't want to be here, but I'm here for these particular reasons. Now, granted, life is life. There are some times we're going to be in a space where you don't want to be, but then other times we keep ourselves there. Okay. So really being able to journal and think through and decipher the two, because there are some times where you're going to have to stay somewhere for a period or temporarily, in order to move into your next step. But that's different than I'm afraid to move into my next step, so I'm staying here. Like for me, I work, full time and while I'm in school, and then once I'm finished school, then I'll be able to transition into my career. So the job that I have may not be ideal, but I'm there because I know that it's going to help get me to where I want to be. That's different than me working a job and being fearful of moving into my next space. So I'm just going to stay where I'm at. Two different things, right? So really understanding those internal conflicts, understanding those fears are important to determine, one, to pinpoint why you feel stuck, but also to help move you out of the stuckness, right? So say we go back to that career example, you're in a job, you're staying there because you're fearful of moving into the new career that you're moving in, that you want to move into and that you desire to into, right? So what happens when you're still working that old job, but then you start getting books or you start doing a class in the career that you want to go into? What happens when you start looking for a mentor, or you start building up your resume, or you start doing a certification on LinkedIn for that next career step? Then you start pulling yourself out of the stuckness, right? Because now you're finding ways to inspire yourself, you're finding ways to motivate yourself, you're finding ways to progress towards your goal. But until you take that first step, baby step, it could be you just downloading, if you want to go into finance, it could be just you downloading a financial app that you can start learning new tips and things on finance. It could be, like I said, you doing a certification or buying a book that you start to read or whatever. It could be just a baby step to help pull you out of that stuckness. But it takes a step, right? Whether that step is big or not. I ain't saying go to work and quit your job tomorrow now. Don't come back and be like, Debbie told me I need to go and quit my job. No, that's not what I said. That's not what I said. It's more so of thinking of these small little steps that you can make towards those goals to push past the fear. Stuckness is fear. To some extent, it's fear or control, one of the two, right? So just and anxiety, but anxiety pretty much is just fear. It's worry, right? So really taking the time to understand your fears and internal conflicts is what's going to help pull you out. Number 4, I'm sorry, I kind of blabbed on that one, but number 4, what do I need to give myself permission to feel or release? What do I need to give myself permission to feel or release? What do I need to give myself permission to feel or release? Like I said, and this is a lot of times, feeling or releasing emotions, I feel, and I don't want to summarize it, but a lot of times it's grief. A lot of times we're grieving people, and I'm not saying it's just like someone that's deceased. Like I said before, we're grieving relationships, we're grieving people, we're grieving environments, we're grieving, situations, we're grieving conflicts. We're grieving so many different things. And a lot of times we have to release those things. Another thing that we hold on to is unforgiveness, right? Because we're not able to progress because of the fact that we can't let go of what someone did to us, right? Whether it's something that's related to the situation or not, we hold on to those emotions, and that stuff stores into your body. A lot of times unforgiveness is associated with trauma, and trauma is stored in the body, right? The issues are in the tissues. So like when it comes to us releasing things, we may feel stuck because of the fact that our bodies are physically holding on to trauma. And the more that we allow that to compound, the more that we mentally are exhausted, right? Just thinking about if you were to walk down the street, say you walked a mile and you went out and went on a walk or on a run, and you went a mile and it's just you, right? You got to the end and you were like, oh, that felt good. That felt great. Imagine walking that same or running that same mile with about 5 or 6 backpacks full of rocks. Okay, I'm making this up on the dome, y'all. But 4 or 5 backpacks with a bunch of rocks, right? You may still get to the end, but by the time when you get to the end, you're going to be exhausted, okay? Exhausted, right? Imagine if you would have taken those bags back off and ran that same amount again. You'd be like, oh, that was light work. I could probably go another mile. That's what we're doing emotionally and spiritually when we hold on to trauma, right? We could be living life not necessarily, I don't like to say easier, because life in itself can be difficult and it can be challenging, but we could be living life in a much better state of being when we just release the emotions and the baggage and the trauma that our bodies are holding on to. And so, the more that you continue holding on to trauma, holding on to those feelings and emotions, and not letting yourself feel those things and release those things, the harder life will continue to be, right? And like I said, not to say that life isn't hard. I don't want to diminish, our lives, because our lives can be difficult. There's things that pop up that are hard and challenging to process and to go through. But it's much easier to go through these things when we don't already have baggage, right? For not already carrying stuff. Okay. So the more that you can shed, it's just like when animals shed their skin, or even when, they shed hair and things of that matter. That stuff starts to weigh down. That starts to weigh you down. And we wonder why we're exhausted, because we're holding on to things that we're not meant to hold on to, or that we were meant to let go. Okay. So that journaling question was, what do I need to give myself permission to feel or release? That's the beginning of shedding. That's the beginning of the emotional and spiritual shedding that needs to happen in order for us to get unstuck. Okay. So that was number 4. Number 5, what does the unstuck version of me believe and do differently? What does the unstuck version of me believe and do differently? What does the unstuck version of me believe and do differently? So understanding that the unstuck version of ourselves is going to move different. They're going to talk different. They're going to walk different. They're going to sound different. They're going to laugh different. They're going to do a lot of things different. What does that look like for you? The answer could be, I don't know, Debbie. I have no idea. And that's okay. But this is more so of a reflection to really think about, if I was to visualize my unstuck version of me, what would they be doing? How would they be spending their time? What would they be saying? Who would they be entertaining? Who would they not be entertaining? What would they be wearing? What would they look like? How would they walk? What would their confidence look like? What kind of books would they read? Like, thinking about all of those things, how would they spend their time, right? What kind of channels or movies or shows would that person watch? What kind of influencers would they follow on Instagram? What kind, like really, really thinking about that person and that version, and what would they be doing, and listing those things out. And once you list those things out, what are you supposed to do? Do those things. Start doing those things one by one. Start checking them things off. Okay. What does that unstuck version of me look like? For me, my unstuck version looks like someone that has a close relationship with God, someone that reads frequently, someone that has time for rest, or rests well, gets good sleep. What does that person look like? They eat well, they hydrate themselves, they have these particular friendships, they don't entertain these types of conversations. They go to these places, they entertain these places, right? So that's what my unstuck version would look like. What does yours look like? And write it down and start knocking them things out. Okay. I honestly, I feel like I became, and not to say I don't feel stuck sometimes, because sometimes I do. But a lot of times I find myself pulling myself out of being unstuck when I educate myself in places or in spaces that I want to be educated on. When I start reading, I didn't even like reading at a certain point in my life. I don't like to read. I don't want to read. But actually, as I started reading more, and Audible books are my best friend. Like, I love to listen to, like, go on walks and listen to my Audible books, because I feel like there's something that happens when you're moving and learning. There's the connection with the brain where you have movement, but then you're also learning, which I don't understand why schools don't utilize more often, because I feel like I learn the best when I'm in movement. It's very weird. I don't know if it's just the ADHD in me or what, but but like finding ways to inspire yourself and not relying on other people to do that and to give you that inspiration, but finding ways to inspire yourself, is how I've been able to pull myself out of being stuck. And again, earlier I said too, my relationship with God pulls me out of being unstuck. Like, there's times where I'm just like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know, there's so much uncertainty. I don't know what I'm supposed to do next. But communing with him sometimes just pulls, not even sometimes, every time pulls me back, and then I'm like, oh, okay, I understand now. I understand my purpose. I understand my vision. I understand why I do what I do. I understand my values. I understand my motivations and my inspirations, and I know what I'm striving for. Sometimes we feel stuck because we have no idea of what we're supposed to be doing. We have no idea what our purpose is. We have no idea what our vision should be. And then we find ourselves in a feeling of hopelessness. And when we find ourselves in that feeling of hopelessness, that creates the stuckness, which then evolves to burnout, which then evolves to the exhaustion and depression and the feelings of sadness and overwhelm. So my unstuck version is connection with God. That's my unstuck version. Um, so that was number 5. What does the unstuck version of me believe and do differently? Number 6, and this is the last journaling question, but what strengths or resources am I forgetting that I have? What strengths or resources am I forgetting I have? What strengths or resources am I forgetting I have? A lot of times we find ourselves stuck because we haven't taken the time to just pause and sit in stillness and strategize, right? Sometimes we're not stuck. We just need to sit and strategize and think through things and plan. A lot of times we are just going through life, and we wake up, we get dressed, get in the shower, get dressed, we eat our breakfast, go to work, go to the gym, come home, watch a show, and then go to sleep, and then rinse and repeat. And we do it all over and over and over again. And we never take the time to pause and say, hey, even though this is the life that I live, if I'm striving for something different, or I'm striving for something better, or if I want to be better, I have to make time for that. And the way that we make time is intentionally pausing, like we talked about 2 weeks ago, is doing our intentional pause. But also, when we're feeling stuck, or we're feeling uncertain, or we're feeling confused, we take the time to understand, like, hey, what strengths do I have that I'm not utilizing right now? What strengths do I have that I could tap back into? What's a hobby or something that I learned a long time ago that could help me right now that I'm not thinking about? What's a resource that I'm missing? Who do I know? What environments can I go back into that I could pull from, that could help me right now? What relationships can reconnect or network with? What mentorship can I seek out? Right? Are there old mentors that I had in the past that I just lost contact with, that I could, reconnect with? So understanding your strengths a little bit more, and what you're not tapping into as far as your strengths and your resources, could actually, a lot of times I've seen be the answer to the issue. It's just that we didn't just take the time to think about it. Say, oh, you know what? I do have that friend that I used to work with that, does this now, or I do have that friend that I talked to that actually I just came in contact with them a couple of weeks ago. Let me reach out to them and see if they can help in this situation. So, like, really taking the time to revisit your strengths and your resources is important. There's times where I forget. I'm like, dang, I forgot I even knew how to do this, you know? Or another thing in this space is the strengths and resources is also what can I teach myself? What can I learn? Because there are a lot of times it's not we get like the imposter syndrome, or we get in the state of like, oh, I don't know how to do this. And instead of us, a lot of times we're trying to find someone to do it for us. But sometimes it takes the time to just, sit and read through something for a couple of hours. And now you're like, okay, I know I can now do this myself. And it's not even as bad as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be hard, but it's really not that hard. Sometimes it just takes the resources is us. It's just a matter of us just taking the time to think through and strategize. Okay, so y'all, I hope this was helpful. I was a little long-winded today, but hey, we're here. Okay. I hope this was helpful. This was our live on what to do when you're feeling stuck. We talked about pausing in reflection, revisiting your why, and investing in restoration. And then also the 6 journaling questions. So yeah, I hope this is helpful, y'all. Y'all will be getting some additional meditations this week. I was supposed to post last week and I lost all my videos, y'all. I got a new laptop and the transfer did not do its job. And I lost all my videos. So I had to start from scratch. So that's why there's a delay in meditations. So I apologize already ahead of time. I was able to like recoup maybe like 2 or 3 of the videos that I can like repurpose and reuse for because usually I use like a template. I set my templates up. All my templates were gone. So I'm all right, y'all. I'm all right. But but y'all should get some more meditations this week. I already posted one this morning. That one was from the Intentional Pauses week. So definitely check that out from this morning. You should get a new one either tomorrow or Wednesday, probably Wednesday. And then probably 2 more, hopefully. But you will be getting your meditations. And then you will get a new poll for the end of the week for tomorrow or next Monday's live. My brain is fried, y'all. For next Monday's live. But thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate your time. And let me know in the comments if there's any questions or anything that you may have from today's live. I always send out my notes on Wednesdays. So if you have not signed up for the newsletter, to get the newsletter from our lives, it goes out every Wednesday. So make sure to go to haveninspired.com, haveninspired.com. The link should be in the description, and sign up for the newsletter and you'll be able to get some of the notes from today's live. But other than that, make sure to watch the playback. Y'all have a great rest of your evening, and I will see you all next Monday for our next topic. Bye.